I don't think it's an exaggeration to say a common interest of autistic people is autism itself. It's almost a symptom of autism to be obsessed with autism, which seems ironic on the surface, but really it makes a lot of sense, especially for us late diagnosed type. Because, well, for one, we do have hyperfixation, hyperfocus, special interests, and so things that interest us, we can really dive deep into. And what's more interesting than picking up the pieces of your life? It just has a lot of aspects to it that we can kind of engage with and relate to. Because when you're late diagnosed, really you look back on your life and there's just so many things that are wrong. Those pieces are just scattered all about and you want to put them together. The diagnosis gives you a scaffolding to do so. And the more you understand, the more you can explain. I'm not going to say there's not a double-edged sword here where you can think too much about being autistic and maybe it'll start to do harm, but in the end, we get obsessed with it and it makes a lot of sense. Because if you're forced to mask your whole life and be more neurotypical, you lose some aspect of yourself. It's like, what could I have been? Who am I? Very common things for autistic people to feel. They're just forced not to be themselves. And so, you always feeling different and not knowing what to call it, and now you do know what to call it, it just makes sense why these things worked out this way. And maybe you felt like you missed out on common experiences not being normal enough. I could say that I'm pretty neurotypical looking when I'm not burnt out. A whole nother story of how people treat me when I'm burnt out to not burnt out, but point being is I got invited to parties a good amount. You know, if you're good at skating, best skater in the school, you got cool points. And neurotypicals care about cool points. Part of the cool points is being like other people, you know, being relatable. But anyways, I got those experiences where I go to parties and stuff like that. I don't like it. I wish people were more like me. Wanted to go and play video games all night instead of gathering in a room and getting too drunk. Like, I preferred that. I preferred to go and learn flip tricks on my skateboard. Go hike in the middle of nowhere with no trail whatsoever. Canyoneering instead of hiking, really, but people weren't like me. And I felt like I missed out on those experiences that I wish I could have had. I wish I had friends like me. But the diagnosis helped me explain that. Moreover, it helped me understand myself. That's part of picking up the pieces, but it's more than that almost. Because there's just so many ways to get obsessed. First and foremost, you can look at personal experiences of other autistic people. And oftentimes, when you look at those personal experiences, it's like, this is the first time I feel like somebody else gets me. Because they just say what they experience, and it's the same thing you experience. And you don't know this person, they don't know you, but you feel like somebody finally gets me in some way. So of course you're going to get interested in that. Because everything else that everyone's ever done just is you faking it until you hopefully make it. And now you don't have to. Now it's like, oh gosh, this exact thing I've always been feeling, I'm not crazy. But past that, the explanation is just really powerful of what the symptoms are, how it affects people, and what the broad class of symptoms are in the first place, the whole umbrella. See, you can get obsessed with looking at neuroscience, psychology, sociology. You can look up college lectures. You can get into the community where there's commonality between what autistic people like. Sonic, for instance, that's a common one, but also toys you can fidget with, and so on and so forth. There's a whole community here for autistic people to relate to, belong to, and better understand themselves. So, in the end, it just makes a lot of sense for us to get obsessed with autism. And I've spent a lot of time learning about psychology in general, not formally studying it, just using the internet and looking at lectures online with research papers and stuff. Nothing as much as autism. And knowing more about it just has explained to me how I've acted at certain times in my life isn't because I'm a bad person or an angry person or any of that. It's because I've been pushed hard, and I keep getting pushed hard by people who don't give any sort of recognition towards who I am because I'm not like them. So It's just a powerful thing to research on many ways, and, well, the proclivity to like things that interest us just puts it over the hill, where it's a common thing for autistic people to be obsessed with autism. Yeah, I think that's all I got to say on that one.